So I don't normally do this on this channel. Usually I keep a lot of my thoughts on the streams. However, in light of recent events, I decided to make this. I don't know how long the announcement's going to be. I'm hoping I'll manage to keep it under, like 30 minutes. Because most of the things that needed to be said have been said anyway. And I don't really feel the need to go into detail too much about a lot of things. However, there are a few things that I want to mention. And I will... Not all of them are negative, however, there is one big negative, and then the rest is just... the rest is honestly more positive in nature. Which is just some, decisions I've made as we move forward with the channel. I will say right now, there will be no significant changes to the channel in the sense of the content I'm creating. I don't really feel like there needs to be. I'm very comfortable with what I'm doing, which is, playing games and then having some extra stuff here and there. Doing movie nights, well, movie nights aren't really on stream, but yeah, doing movie nights, doing viewing streams, sometimes, co-commentary, being on other people's channels. And as it is a great or great thing for me to mention, you guys like segues? The co-commentary streams are going to change in one simple manner, which is the manner of both Lore, or Fiora, and C10 have announced and also commenced / gone through with their departure from the Slime Kingdom as a group, as in, for those of you who aren't aware, this is the group that basically we've called, like, our I don't know, our VTuber group, our streaming group. Basically just the bracket or the brand that we all stream under. By the way, if my nose is a little bit stuffy, I don't fucking know why. I'm not crying, okay? No, I don't know. It's not I'm crying. I'm not really sick. It's just recently my nose has been a little bit stuffy around this time of day, which I don't really get, but whatever. Not important. Both of them have, like I said, announced and gone through with their departure from the group, from, both the Discord and the streams. They've given their reasonings, and I'm not really here to go into detail about these reasonings. However, I will say that there was simply a very large disconnect in opinion in how we want to hold these streams in general, or really just our streams in general. Not even like just necessarily co-commentary, everything. And likewise, there was also a very clear discrepancy in how we've viewed a lot of the past happenings, events. To the point where things have been said and claims have been made that don't really coincide. I don't think that's the right word, but they're not reality. They're not what really happened. They're not how feelings have been conveyed, not just from me in the group, but in general. They're not at all in line with my point of view with other people's point of view, and really just like generally even a neutral point of view, I feel in a lot of cases. And you know that's entirely fair. I'm not, and I've said this in the extensive talk that we've had. We sat down yesterday. Today is the 21st of October, 2022. And the talk that we had last evening or yesterday evening, 4-hour talk. There is a recording of it. I don't intend to share that recording outside of people who are involved in this entire situation. However, it has been recorded. It is almost 4-hour long. I think like 3 hours and 48 minutes. And a lot of things have been said. A lot of things have been talked about. A lot of things have been quote unquote cleared up. I will say. However, reconciliation was not and simply still is not an option. You know, this is a group, this is something I've stated, and you know, for those of you who care enough to actually watch the co-commentary streams and enjoy the content that is made together with everybody on those commentary streams, we've I think a lot of us have made clear, especially I've made clear before, that this is a relatively, I would say, a very tightly knit group of people that have known each other. I mean, somewhere up to like 10 years, basically. Like for most of them, it's, you know, definitely over like half a decade. Some others, you know, haven't quite been in the group as long, or knew other parties but weren't in the group yet, or only joined relatively recently, a few months ago. But I still was under the belief, and I still am under the belief with the people that are remaining, that we are a very tightly knit group that knows each other, that understands each other, and that while there are sometimes situations and happenings where they're not optimal, there is still plenty of reason to suggest and plenty of evidence to suggest that these are things that we were able to work past, from my perspective anyway. However, it seems as though both Lore and C10 did not see that way. They've made it clear in their statement, or statements, I should say, because I did ask for statements and, you know, sort of a list of grievances. Well, not even sort of a list, it is a list of grievances that each of them had, and this was basically the main talking point of our long conversation that we had yesterday of this stream, so the day before. Well, not stream, sorry, the day before this video. The only thing I will say, that even within this talk, there were a lot of things that I felt were rude, in a sense. Not necessarily because of their actions 100%, but maybe more so the action of making a claim in those points that were written out before, and like sent to me 2 days before yesterday, so on Tuesday. The discrepancies and like the massive differences, or the sudden backpedaling on claims that had been made in writing, which, you know, for those of you who, I don't know, don't engage in a lot of instant messaging, or really just don't engage in a lot of like texting outside of phone, when you write out a message, there is a much bigger buffer between saying what you mean and typing it out, I suppose, is a way of saying it. Like when you type something out, the amount of time and the amount of thought that goes into formulating your point takes a lot longer. So I believe there are times where when you write out a message and you write out, especially like a list of things, this is something that you will usually be like more sincere about, despite what you will say like 2 days later verbally when you're in a conversation with somebody. Because saying things verbally in a conversation, it like, especially when you're in an emotional situation, they end up sometimes not being things you necessarily meant, or sometimes you just have trouble voicing what you're really trying to say. These things happen. That's entirely normal. However, like I said, I think if you're doing it in writing, there's reason to suggest that you're actually being a lot more sincere, like I said, especially when it's like a longer list. And it was a relatively long list. I mean, to stay as vague as possible, one of the two made like an alphabetized list, which, I mean, even there, a lot of the same points were repeated in just like slightly different wording. However, I mean, still, like, especially that, than the fact that somebody would repeat them so often suggests to me that they are more serious about those points, or more like sincere and actually, have a grievance with those points. However, the talk itself would not suggest that in a lot of ways. It would merely suggest that, yeah, there was just a lot of, I wouldn't even call it miscommunication, like on the part of between the two and between myself or between the rest of the chat, but honestly more so just like between the two of them and just like the entirety of the chat, really, and just how situations really happened. Like there's such a huge disconnect in some cases where things will have been said and meant in a certain way, and then the other person, like, specifically worded or specifically said in a certain way, and then the other person completely takes that the entirely wrong way. And that wouldn't be such a big deal if, number one, it didn't happen so many times, and number two, it was actually communicated. I believe, again, I've said it a lot of times on stream, and from the feedback that I've gotten from the people that are still in the group, yeah, like, very clearly I've held my word to this. That I want to create a place where everybody is equal and everybody can voice their grievances, no matter who they have their grievances with, and that they will also receive, an answer to those cited grievances. However, when somebody chooses, like whether or not somebody chooses to do that is obviously still up to them. And in a lot of cases, it was chosen simply not to. And this has sort of created situations where they haven't come forth with how they feel about a certain situation. And I personally believe, because maybe these weren't feelings they had at the time, or maybe these are simply not really feelings that they had that strongly, but they figured, like, oh, now that we're in this certain situation, like, this is how it feels now, and this is how these other situations have felt before as well. Which obviously, like, if a certain situation sticks into your head to the point where you remember basically every detail of it, sure, you can maybe make that claim. But that also really wasn't the case a lot of the time. Like, a lot of the time, it seems as though the claims that they've made, even regarding like past situations, excuse me, I'll have to clear my nose in a moment here. sorry about that. The views and the outlook on certain situations, whether it be an actual situation or a past situation, has just been completely misinterpreted. Which I already view as a huge problem, because if you feel slighted in some way, I feel like it's important to voice that, and I've said that I want people to voice that, and it hasn't been done, but then those specific grievances have been cited as, like, reasons why they left. Which obviously is just very rude to, I mean, obviously myself, but to everybody else as well. And then, there were other things. There were, claims of myself being... claims to the effect of myself being a narcissist, claims to the effect of myself making the entire group about myself, about centering everything around myself, about centering everything around, like, the theme that we had as a group, which, again, is the Slime Kingdom. However, this hasn't ever really been, like, a fixed theme for everybody that, like, everybody had to follow. And, I mean, you can, find out as much if you so much as click over to anybody else's channel, like even the two themselves. Like, if you click over to Lore's channel, you will find a much different theme and a much different view of everything than you will on my channel, or even on C10's channel, or Floof's channel completely. Like, the Floof doesn't even, like, really do video game streams, mainly. Floof doesn't... Floof mostly just does artwork, and then recently he does, game development streams, but not really, like, solely gaming streams. Other than, like, here and there, like, the odd exception, I suppose is the right word. And, with claims like that, it like, you can't just make these claims and then later on not back them up, or later on, like, say, like, oh, well, yeah, I guess now reading this, like, oh, yeah, I don't really agree with this, or, yeah, I guess it makes sense that, like, now that you say it, like, this is a completely different situation and I misinterpreted it. And it wouldn't be such an issue if, like, it was just simply one point that was misinterpreted. But there were a lot of points that were misinterpreted. And I think if you're going to go as far as to leave a server over your misinterpretations and to trample on what was a lot of years of friendship, and if you're going to trample on a lot of people's feelings, and if you're going to accuse people of basically being these horrible people that don't give you enough attention or don't collaborate with you enough, when very clearly the opposite has been proven time and time again. If this is, like, if you're, and I don't want to call it delusions, but if your misinterpretation of reality is so strong that it causes you to leave a friend group like that behind, there is simply no way to return, like, to normal from that. That's impossible, quite literally. Like I said, I don't want to go into too much detail. However, I do want to give context to, like, a reasonable extent to where I can. Like I said, the talk that we've had clearly also showed that I think both of them realized that they made a mistake, a lapse in their judgment, perhaps a too rash judgment in a lot of places, too rash a decision in a lot of places. However, they both have shared their thoughts in text in the group itself shortly before leaving, which was that they feel that they aren't appreciated, they feel that they aren't as good friends as everybody, and they also feel like they don't simply get enough attention, which, again, is like all of that generally, I think is just very extremely rude, especially when people do like make an effort here and there, as much as is possible, and especially when I've made the effort to reach out my hand to everybody and say like, oh, let's, every Sunday, like, because Sunday would be, otherwise like just a stream for myself where I could still do like something that is completely catered to what I like to do. But then, at some point I decided to say like, oh, okay, let's turn this into every Sunday we sit together and like either we just get together, hang out, somebody plays a game and everybody else watches and we just talk about stuff, or we all play games together, or we do like some kind of event together. I mean, most recently we were over on Floof's channel doing a fetish tier list, which sounds funny, and it is. I myself have actually completed the list, so if you want to go watch that and just in general like subscribe to Floof, go over to his channel. There will be a link in the description. Like if you want to check that out, that was like a lot of fun, I think, for all of us. Maybe to watch, it's maybe less funny, but there were plenty of like good moments, I feel. And I mean, that is going to continue going forward, so if you just like to see people explain why they're degenerates, for example, you can, go ahead and move over there, and like I said, just generally subscribe to Floof anyway, because his content is a lot of fun. Well, a lot of fun if you like, watching art streams. I mean, they're essentially like podcasts, basically. However, there's, drawing happening in the background, and then sometimes there's video game development happening in the background with, Tidor or whoever else joins the voice call. If if you consider that like good entertainment, and it is, because there's a lot of great moments there as well. Definitely go check out Floof and subscribe to him. And I mean, just in general, like the logo you're looking at right now, for example, is also made by Floof, and there was also a stream for that, and I was on there, and it was funny. There was a lot of funny moments. But to get slightly back on topic. Yeah, there was simply too much that didn't correspond and correlate with correspond, I think is the more apt word, with reality. There were a lot of claims made that had been disputed earlier and before. Claims, like I said, of like not getting enough attention. Claims of there not being enough cooperation when, like I said, every Sunday we do something, even if it is just something like sitting together and playing like so one person is playing a video game and everybody else is watching, which to say that like, oh well, there could be an argument of saying like, oh well, but that's just on your channel and that's already like always centered around you as well. That's not true either, because we've been over on C10's channel as well for like an entire playthrough, and that took like 1 or 2 months, I believe, or 1.5 months. I don't remember entirely the time frame. I think, by the way, speaking of time frame, I will be going over 30 minutes with this alone. Great. But yeah, it was things like that, making claims of like, oh, there isn't enough cooperation, when very clearly the opposite is the true. And even in the sense of like bigger projects, I mean, I had announced on one of my streams that there will be coming, starting next year, like a sort of a collected channel where all of us will have, every single one of us will be able to like access that channel, and it will be like full of like clips, basically. It will probably also feature the full-length recordings of our movie nights, which is something that I very much appreciate, because the editing process will otherwise be extremely arduous. I mean, already, like, I went through one of the movies that we've watched, and that took way longer than I expected it to, and honestly, I'm not even really 100% satisfied with the result there. So maybe it would just be better to upload that as its own video, and then, you know, maybe there's going to be clips as well, and then those clips from those specific like movie nights are going to be edited properly and given new life on the channel itself. Things like that, things like, you know, Floof working in the background on a website for the Slime Kingdom. And you know, just these things that are clearly bigger projects that have been announced to everybody and that have been communicated with everybody. And to then have somebody say that, like, this isn't happening, or this isn't really, like, something that, like we're not doing anything, you know, like, apart from it being a downright lie, it's just not seeing reality for what it is. And I'm not going to use, you know, words like gaslighting, even if some might think that that's the correct terminology. I don't think it is. I don't think they really necessarily gaslit anybody out of, like, a malicious mindset. However, like I said, there's very clearly a discrepancy between how they view reality and then how the majority, or really everybody else in the group, views reality. And simply to say, they themselves made the claim that they don't want to argue about their leaving. This is something that they choose to do. They want to branch out differently. They want to tackle their streaming more professionally, especially in Lore's case. C10 sort of went a few steps back on that and said, like, oh, well, you know, I mean, well, you know, that's actually going into too much detail, I believe. But yeah, basically, like, for him, the professionality, quote unquote, is not quite as important as it is for Lore. But it was still a factor. At the very least, you know, in their leaving message, they made this a factor. In their own, like, lists of each things that they had problems with, I believe it was a bullet point, or at least part of a bullet point, but the gist that I got from the conversation, and whether or not that's, you know, true and can be taken for granted, or not for granted, but, like, can be taken as truth, you know, is left up to interpretation. My interpretation, because, you know, hopefully I won't have to record or upload the audio file of that talk. I don't really see a need to currently. I hope there will never be a need to, and I honestly will just assume that there never will be a need to, because I don't want to. Is the thing, right? Like, who wants to publicize basically, like, what is a breakup between friends to a viewer base, no matter how big or small it is, right? Like, nobody wants to do that. And besides, it's just a very frustrating and just exhausting thing to listen to anyway. I mean, I had a murder headache after all of that, and I went into it prepared. I can only imagine what it does to spinning on your keyboard. I can only imagine what it does to people who aren't prepared for what they're going to hear. But to summarize these happenings, basically, is to say that both of them will no longer be in the group. Both of them will also no longer be accepted into the group. The point that I made at some point, and I believe at the end of the talk as well, is that my doors are open, however my heart is not. Which was kind of my argument, was to the point that if there were enough people within the group that, you know, like, that are also still now left in the group, that say like, no, we do want them here, they're our friends, we want them to hang out here at the very least, I would have said okay. However, I would have still gone through with what I choose to do and what I've chosen to do and what I choose to do for the future, which is I said this to them as well, I don't want to interact, I don't want to collaborate, I don't want to work together, and really just don't want to cross paths, really. I mean, that, you can't really control that, fate and all that, bringing people together as it is, but I don't intend to ever cooperate with them or, collaborate, work together, interact at all with them again, and I've made that point very clear in our talk as well. I have also not received word from any of the others who would have said like, well, actually, or who could have said like, well, actually, we want them back. Tidor himself made a statement to the effect of, well, if Lauren C10 had chosen to say that, well, they don't want to stream here anymore and they don't want to stream together with us anymore, but would still gladly accept this as a place to hang out, I personally would have said that would still work. This was, however, this is also a mentality that I would have probably kept before the more detailed list of reasonings, because after receiving that list, I just really didn't see any way of salvaging this relationship, this friendship. Not in a way where it wouldn't like impact everybody else's mentality and mental health in general. Everybody else has also made the claim and the statement that they are either completely ambivalent, they don't care whether or not they're let back in. The vast majority, though, has said that, yeah, it would be a lot healthier for both parties to just part ways and branch out in the direction they want to branch out, because otherwise it would just affect everybody's mental health and it would affect everybody's well-being, and that's not really something that I want, because from the past I've learned that the more you let it get into that direction, the more then the bigger group will fall apart. And I personally prefer to choose the option of letting a smaller group of people go over the idea of trying to fix something that very clearly won't be fixed, where a lot of people don't want it to be fixed, and then just having that like be a point of conflict to the point where some people will like, or most of the people will just like basically be like, well, I'm completely uncomfortable in this group now, I don't want to keep this going, I'm gonna leave. Or the idea that somewhere down the line a bigger issue will break out, a bigger fight will break out, and then that will like completely like break apart the group, which is something that I really don't want to happen. And people have also said that like if the situation remains as it is right now, the two of them not coming back, they're very like, optimistic that the group won't fall apart, because the people that are left can all realistically judge how things are happening, how things are gonna go forward, and how things are being handled and have been handled, and how people interact with each other. It's, basically what it boils down to is they know that we're all friends. They know how everybody acts. They know everybody in the sense that they know how their personalities work. And it's just going to create a much more lax and much more comfortable place of streaming and interacting. And I think that's important. I think I've said it from the beginning, or not from the beginning, but I've definitely recently like made the claims, especially in the last 2 years, have made the claims that I don't want to blow my nose again, but I will have to in a second here because I'm going to sneeze. That I want everybody to be comfortable, that I want everybody to, comfortably be able to state their mind, to state their opinion. And when somebody, on their own decides that, like, oh, well, if I say my opinion, then it won't matter to everybody else. When you do things like that, and when, like I said, when you claim no cooperation and no collaboration where it's very clearly happened, you're not only diminishing your own efforts, because we all have, like, done things for each other and we all have interacted with each other in that manner, but especially you're diminishing the efforts of everybody else that has, like, helped you in some way, shape, or form. And you're frankly, my view on it is you're also diminishing my efforts of saying that I believe that everybody is, contributed to not just my streams, but the group in general in their own way. To say to me that that's not true when it very clearly is, and it's very clearly a valid and true feeling, I find that to be rude, and I find that to be, I suppose, somewhat of an attack against myself. Not so much as the, suggesting that I am a narcissist who makes everything about himself or centers everything around himself. But I do feel it is to some degree still an attack. Even if not as malicious or at all malicious. I just think, like, the implication there is that you feel as though somebody else who potentially did less or did something else is worth more than what you did, and then by that you imply that, like, the person who the things have been made for is somebody who arbitrarily decides, like, oh, well, this person has done this and this and this for me, thus they are worth a lot more than this other person, when, I've made it clear in my streams that, to me, all of my friends are on equal footing. I've made this clear in writing, in vocally, in speaking, I suppose would be the right word to use. I've made it very clear that, like, all of my friends stand on equal footing and equally contribute to what I think to be a very close-knit group. And, to say that that's not true, to say that that isn't the case, I mean, it's just lying, right? It's just blatantly lying and not seeing reality for what it is. And it isn't, just that I say these things. I mean, the feedback that I've gotten is, the same, really. But to not go on too long about this anymore, like I said, they have departed. Perhaps there, during our talk on their side, there was some sort of small glimmer of hope that this would be able to be mended. They did leave the door open for things to be mended. However, they also prefaced or went ahead and before this said that their decision is not one to be argued with. Their decision to leave is not one to be argued with. Which, clearly conflicting statements in a leaving statement. Which, it happens, especially if you're emotional. Sure, that can happen. But if you've made the choice to leave a group, without even beforehand, like, discussing something within the group itself, and just say, like, okay, this is the reasons why I want to leave, and I'm leaving now. I mean, you've made your decision, right? This isn't, I didn't, nobody kicked them, nobody banned them. They left of their own free accord, their own free will, of their own accord, and they've said that this is their decision and that they do not want to argue that decision. And I didn't even intend to argue their decision with our talk, but I feel like on their side there still was some small, like, idea that maybe through this talk things could be mended, when in reality, I mean, I already went in with the mentality that, like, yeah, no, the way this is going to end is I'm going to announce to you two that you aren't going to be in the group anymore, because it's simply something that I don't want, and it's simply something that others also don't feel comfortable with, and just say like, yeah, no, this wouldn't be healthy. And it wouldn't be. It genuinely wouldn't be. I can, like I said, from past experiences, I can tell that this would not be something that is going to happen, or is not going to go down well. By the way, one moment, I will have to clear my nose again. See, I claim I'm not sick, but then I feel like I might be wrong about that as well. after the arduous process that this has been, maybe I have come down with a case of something. I don't know. It has been an arduous process as well. Like, I saw the message, or the message had been posted like, Tuesday morning, which is Tuesday is one of my work days. I couldn't even respond to it like in a proper fashion, other than typing out on my phone like, hey, I'd like a more detailed list of reasonings, like why you feel this way, because I don't like vagueness in these kinds of things, because I've stated, like, before, as I said earlier as well, like, just give your grievances as detailed as you want it to be, and then when you're hit with a relatively vague leaving message, like, you basically, as for myself, I just wanted to know more. There was no real interaction with anybody else from the chat, but obviously as the Discord group, I mean, but obviously as the leader, like, I had to step in and say like, hey, I want more information, and not even just because I'm the leader of the group, as as weird as it sounds for me to describe myself as that, I just wanted to know more for myself. Like, I just basically, that was my reasoning. Like, half of it was I want to give other people, or the people in the Discord, like, an opportunity to see why things happened, and then at the same time, I also wanted to know for myself, because I mean, we'd been friends for, we known each other for, I think, like I said, almost a decade. We've been friends for almost as long. Like, you want to know why somebody feels that way, especially like when, for example, 2 days before, you were still on a stream and still on speaking terms, and everything seemed completely fine. But either way, yeah, like I said, they've departed. They will remain departed. I have no intention of bringing them back. Neither of them, like, even if it were just one person coming back to asking, like, oh, well, that other person doesn't want to associate, but I would like to. Even then, it's not something that I will accept, because it's simply, from both of them, I feel hurt, and I feel as though I've been done a disservice. I feel as though everybody else has been done a disservice by the two of them. Whether they're a package deal or not, which I don't believe most people are a package deal. Especially not two adults. Like, if I don't want to interact with either of them, is basically, like, either of them or both of them, and or both of them. Yeah, no, just don't care about it. Don't care for it. Really don't. Not at this point anymore. Not when several hands have been reached out, and several opportunities have been given, and free opportunities have been given. Like, I never made it a point to say, like, oh, you have to stream in this way, or oh, you have to stream in that way. But then to have, like, limitations of professionalism and limitations of the way you want to hold your content, or the way you want to like speak more so accurately. By people who've already, you know, shown that they aren't really capable of practicing what they preach. I can't accept that. Not in a place where I've said, like, I want people to be able to act and work freely as they please. So yeah, like I said, the two of them will no longer be on the streams. Material relating to them, as up until this point, will, you know, still be released. It will still be on the channel, like in the clip. You know, they're obviously in the clips, and the clips, when they do go onto the clip channel, they will be in them, because that's, you know, I mean, I won't pretend as though there weren't good moments. There were, and you know, there were more good moments than bad moments, but I feel like the impact of the bad moments, as it is, you know, sadly all the time, was just way bigger. And bigger in such a way that I don't feel is salvageable, even with all the good moments that we've had. That is to say, yeah, like I said, like the things that they are in will remain on the stream, because I mean, there's a lot of it, and I don't really intend to remove like 80% of my, well, it's not 80%, but I don't intend to, like, you know, remove a third of my footage just because they're in it. Yeah, like I said, the content that they're in up to this point, which, I mean, that's all the content that they're in, because there isn't going to be any content with them more going forward. But I also refer with this to, like, movie nights and such. That will all still be uploaded in the same way as it always has been. It will remain in the same way on the channel as it always has been. However, things such as, you know, the like the dancing gifts at the start of the stream, theirs will be taken out, because, you know, they're not part of the kingdom and of this group anymore. They're obviously, their PNG model things aren't going to show up on stream anymore, and, you know, any I feel any content that was made by them, which, you know, on my end isn't that much anyway, would be removed as well. But then, you know, I look at my content and I say, like, okay, most of this is made by myself anyway, and then we've got, like, you know, the Sliggy Butt and Beppo from SAC, for example. Like I said, the dancing gifts are from Floof. Things like that, like the logo from Floof, obviously, like these things, there isn't that much that came from them anyway, other than their presence on the streams, which, you know, isn't like, I never asked for them to make anything like that. Like the logos as well, you know, these are things that have been made by Floof of his own accord. The gifts are something that I paid him for to make. So, like, you know, all the content that is on here was either given freely or was simply, you know, like, the person who made it was what's the word, paid, but, you know, I'm looking for another word. Damn it. This is where my ESL is showing. This is where my ESL is showing. Compensated. They were compensated for their time and their work. Never mind. ESL gone after all. Surely an ESL moment, as Floof would say. Regardless of that, like I said, they will no longer be featured on this stream. I will not cooperate with them. I will not watch their streams. I will not talk to them in private. I have, as far as I'm aware, removed them everywhere that it was possible to me, I think. And I don't really intend to change that either, because, again, it's just, it's one of those things you can't mend I can't in good conscience bring them back into the fray and just say like, yeah, this is fine, we're gonna work on this, because we're not going to. It wouldn't get better. Grievances would pile up even more, and it would just, create an environment that I don't want, because I've seen it before, and it never ends well. It never ends well. No matter how small the community is that you talk about, things like that only cause extra drama, and I don't want that. I don't want that, as our favorite pumpkin man says. But yeah, like I said, this is the final decision. There is no going back on this. I don't think I will ever have the feeling of going back on this, but even if the thought does cross my mind, that won't be a decision that will be made rashly. And frankly, it will be a decision that if it's made rashly, it's, towards the not bringing them back, because that's really just the mentality that I have right now is the healthiest, is just, no, it's over. Needless to say, as small as my viewer base is, I don't want anybody to, go and harass them at all over any of this. This is really, generally speaking, a private matter between us anyway, but considering they were such an integral part to, like, the Sunday streams, for example, I felt the need to express that, yeah, they simply won't be here anymore. They simply will not be on the channel anymore. I will not be on their channels anymore. Still, though, no harassment. I disavow anybody doing any of that. And, yet still, I do not wish them anything but the best. Anything but, like, the best of luck as they move forward to hopefully, fulfilling their dreams of however they wish to go about their streaming and VTubing, if that even is a thing they still want to pursue after all of this, which I would hope so. I mean, I wouldn't want them to stop streaming if it's something they do enjoy doing because of this, like, despite how non-amicably it ended, I suppose. However, there isn't only sad news and bad news for an hour. Great. Amazing. Should have just kept my fucking mouth shut about making this shorter than 30 minutes. I even said that on the stream prior to this video. Like, just, yeah, no, I'm gonna look into the fact that it's not, like, longer than 30 minutes. That didn't work. That did not work at all. Either way, I have a few announcements to make, some of which I've alluded to or outright said in the section before this, or even in the stream before this. I plan on having a few tweaks to the channel, mostly in the sense of advertisement, both for myself and also for others, obviously. I'm definitely looking into being more active on my Twitter account as the forefront of my VTubing, which, is mostly just hobby VTubing anyway, but I feel like I've reached a point where I can clearly say, like, yeah, okay, I mean, I'm a VTuber, I've got the model on stream and all that, as sporadically as the camera captures, depending on where I sit. I need to get one of those ring lights, I think, is actually the problem here. Then I wouldn't have to turn on the big light all the time. Either way, yeah, like I said, I want to be more active on my Twitter. I will post, schedules, streams, maybe even the odd meme. Maybe I'll even retweet something at some point. Maybe I'll even interact with other VTubers at some point that aren't Floof. Sorry. Floof, you're, blood on my heart, cum of my ass, but cum of my ass. That's not right. but I mean, you interact with other VTubers too, don't you? And that's also kind of what I, intend to do. If something comes of it, I mean, you will see anyway. If there will be collabs, I mean, if it's collabs with Floof, especially, of course, obviously, and anyone. Oh, hold on, I think I feel a sneeze coming. Maybe the video time would be cut in half if I didn't sneeze and clear my fucking nose so much. But yeah, like I said, collabs with Floof are obviously happening, and with everybody else who's in the group. I mean, that's a no-brainer. We're all in the same group. But maybe a potential to like branch out a little bit more, bring other people into the fray here and there, if that is something that's possible, or even just to interact, get some art, some extra stuff to show off that's like more related to the VTubing. I personally don't really do it in the capacity that like professionals and then some other indie VTubers do it. I don't really play a character other than myself. Obviously, we allude to things here and there, and we do make jokes about slimes and whatnot here and there. But I certainly don't take it quite as seriously as others do, which I think is completely fine. I mean, Floof, for example, doesn't either. He's also more like just himself on streams rather than playing a character. But I feel like that's a completely valid way of VTubing. And I mean, streaming obviously in general. I will continue to do things on YouTube. I don't really see why I if there even is a reason to move to Twitch. I mean, even with my admittedly more darker and offensive style of humor, I just don't really want to like rearrange everything for Twitch. Basically, like I said, I also don't really see the point. I mean, I do fine enough on YouTube. People stream on YouTube as well, like to a regular viewer base. I don't really necessarily need Twitch, but yeah, like I said, like things will keep going on. YouTube, I will simply advertise myself more on Twitch, god damn it, on Twitter, and I might even put a little tag for VTuber into the tags. Who knows if I'm feeling so frisky. As it is, also I want to. There's a few things I want to work on as well that you guys will see anyway. Rather than having my start screen be the end screen, I want an actual end screen. I will work on maybe some transitions for different scenes in OBS. Just a few quality of life improvements. Especially also because I want to use like the end card as something where I can advertise for my friends who've been a big part in creating a lot of things and like helping. I mean, they're the backbone in a lot of ways of this content. Like, I'm obviously here, streaming. However, if it weren't for a lot of them, if it weren't for all of them, really, interacting with me in chat, I would still ramble on, clearly, as I'm doing right now. But their reactions, their information, their input is, whether it be in text or in voice, is always valued and is to me like as just as much of an integral part of a stream as is my gameplay and my commentary. I want to have like a thing where I can show, oh, this is FuwaFuwaP. Oh god, that sounds so weird to say. But basically, this is Floof's channel. This is Sack's Twitter because she's a little fucking homosexual and doesn't have her YouTubing and streaming thing yet. But she has Twitter, so you can go positively harass her there. There's, Path wants to, whenever their schedule becomes less cluttered, wants to get into VTubing themselves, streaming themselves. Something that I hopefully, and that we will hopefully be able to implement into my own streams and the slime group in general. Just basically a new arrival. One of my lesser active in the Discord friends, who I've still known for a long time, Key, is also looking to debut soon. Whether or not he wants to be part of this is, up to him. I'm fine if he doesn't. However, if there's still chances to collab, if there's still chances to work together, I also want to, advertise his channel equally. And then, whatever goes on in the future, I don't know, if Tidor decides to do something specifically online, he would be, as well on that end card screen. Pinata, I don't know if he's planning to. Probably not. He's busy with college, as is Sack, which is I think both of their reasons for not doing it, and maybe also just the fact that they, or specifically Payne is a little bit more shy about it. I don't know about that, but if he decides to do something, I will happily include him as well, obviously. And these kinds of things that will just generally go on in the future. We will still have, every Sunday being our co-commentary stream. We will still have a thing where we get together and play games in a group. Like this Sunday, for example, we're doing Tower of Fantasy with Teeter and Floof. So that's something that's, there to look forward to. Something that I really can't wait for, because we're going to be exploring the entirely new region in Tower of Fantasy, which I think will be a lot of fun. And just in general, I want to interact more. I want to be more interconnected. It's not that I felt uncomfortable doing that beforehand, but it was something where it was okay, this is going to take me, taking aside some time to actually sit down and work this out properly. There may be some UI change. Well, UI, I say as though there's an actual user interface, but there may be some, visual improvements, maybe some better, streaming layout specifically. I am not opposed to the way it looks right now, but I do feel that there's a little bit of, there's always room for improvement, but I do feel that there's a lot that I could do that would be more easy to look at, nicer to look at, maybe. Just work over a lot of things in general, because the way I have set it up right now is a bit cluttered and just kind of too difficult to quickly work around. That's something where I would say maybe this is something that I really need to fix. This is something that I really need to get down to, I don't know, work out maybe just separate scenes for separate captures. But even then, it's I could do that all in one scene, and then it wouldn't quite be as cluttered. I think that's probably the best idea to go for. But yeah, I equally also intend to still keep going with these special event streams where, every well, I say special event, but really it's just something like, Halloween, where we divert and take a detour from every other playthrough and just do horror shit for an entire month. Or, for the extent of the month that I'm actually able to stream. Same with around Christmas, when we always play the entries of the Yakuza series. things like that, you know. Just I want to keep those things going. I want to do, you know, special stuff whenever it's possible. I still want to, you know, equally play games with everybody. Want to just have like these, you know, dumb stream ideas like the fetish tier list with everybody. Dumb positively, by the way. I mean, and again, like I said, just, you know, give a chance to branch out more to myself. Act in a way more professional, but that is still true to myself. But simply, you know, do things like credit people where credit is due, which I usually do anyway. You know, I will say when somebody makes something for my stream and I show that off and I add that to the streams, I will always say like, oh, this was made by Floof, and, you know, I will thank them on stream, but, you know, do it with links, link everybody's channel in every video, or their social media if they have one. Just give everybody credit where credit is due, and just make things a bit more transparent in that regard. But again, like, I'm not looking to change anything about the content I create in like the nature of the content that I create, or in the way that I create the content, in the way that I portray myself. That's not really something I'm ever looking to do, because that's, you know, that just wouldn't be me. Yeah, that's not quite it yet. I don't think. There are a few more points that I want to talk about, I believe, but that's basically the idea for, you know, like the collaboration, the things, you know. Like I said, Sunday streams, co-commentary streams will equally happen in the way they have before, simply with the two in question removed. It will usually be, you know, Floof, Sack, maybe Tidor, in the voice chat. Payne will usually probably be either in text or will sometimes chime in when he, you know, feels comfortable and feels like he can. And then, you know, whoever wants to join, or whoever feels free to join, like, you know, if Path, for example, wants to join, then they're absolutely, you know, welcome to do so as well. And I honestly, I want that, because I feel like they fit very well into this group of friends. As for like organizational things that I can specifically say, there will most likely be an update to the schedule now that during the week is free, or more free. However, I can't really give a direct answer right now. This is something that I have to talk about with like Floof and Path specifically. I think Path is looking into streaming on Wednesdays, which wouldn't be a day that I would be able to do that anyway, but like maybe, you know, add Thursdays to the mix, which I guess would make it give me like basically the latter half of the week, which is something I can deal with, honestly. Tuesdays never work for me anyway. Like I said, Wednesdays also won't really work. I don't even know if Mondays would ever work. Like I'm almost tempted to say they won't, but which is fine. Like, you know, 4 days of streaming a week already is like enough, especially because that then means that like I have 3 streams specifically for like my own playthroughs, right? Oh, hold on, I just got something on Discord. Okay, Floof has returned, basically. He said that he had something to talk about with somebody IRL, but now he's back. That's your update on Floof's whereabouts on October 21st. Yeah, like I said, schedule-wise, I can't fully say. I can only say you will see. And I think that's, frankly, like the fairest I can even give, because, like I said, we haven't really convened on when, like I said, like, I think Thursday afternoon, or maybe even longer than that, is something that I want to go for. Because, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think that's, like, well and good enough for myself. And then, you know, Floof having the opportunity to stream during some days. I mean, if Floof can stream like Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, like during the day, for example, and then, I don't know, Saturday at night, that would also give him like 4 days of streaming. And I think that's plenty of time to get things done. And then, you know, plus if like Saturday falls away or something, or if he says like, okay, whatever, I'll do like a 12, 13, 14-hour stream on like during the weekdays, and then on Saturday I just won't stream, and then I can also, with less of a heavy heart, go ahead and say like, okay, I'm gonna stream until like 11 p.m. my time, which would make like a 7 to 8 hour stream, for example, as well. But like I said, those are things that are, you know, we'll just have to like get down to together and talk about together. Lastly, I already mentioned this, the website that Floof is creating that I have still neglected to actually fill my information out on, to which I believe Floof called me a smelly man. This is too far to scroll up, I think. Oh, whatever. It's fine. That is still happening, as far as I'm aware, with most likely inclusions of Tidor, for sure, as far as I'm aware. But then also, I don't know, maybe Pain. I don't know if Floof was playing that. But then also, if they are, you know, comfortable with that, Path and Sack. So, you know, slots will be filled. Which, I mean, it's not like there's free slots to begin with. There's just, people are going to be added as they're important to the stream. And as they're, you know, I mean, I guess, yeah, just like generally interacting with the stream. I think Floof mentioned that, like, everybody who is like on co-commentary, or even, you know, plans to stream in general, is going to be included. If I'm not misunderstanding that, but that's still happening. That will obviously be linked as well as soon as it's done and something that's presentable. And yeah, I mean, I think that's basically it, you know. I still plan on, you know, covering new releases as I have. I still plan on doing random shit as I have, of just playing games that I feel like playing, of just playing games that are new, that are coming out, that I feel like playing, of continuing like, you know, longer series that I've already started, of basically, you know, I mean, like I said, there's no real change to what I'm trying to do, and I don't think there's a big change to what others are trying to do either. It's simply, the biggest change, like I said, is that Lore and C10 will no longer be part of all of this. With that, I think it is my time to conclude, because it is 9:30 p.m. and I still have dailies to do on Tower of Fantasy. Don't expect these kinds of videos, these kinds of announcements to pop up too much. I only really wanted to do this because I felt it would be right to announce to the perchance few of you that do care that yes, those two won't be on streams anymore, because I mean, you know, I think it's better to be transparent to a certain degree than to leave people completely in the dark. And I mean, it's also, you know, a conclusion to the entire situation for me. Either way, like I said, that is all I have to add to this situation. That is all I have to really give to this situation. I don't intend to stop streaming for a long fucking while. I simply intend to do the things that I said on stream today, most likely starting November. Just because that's going to be like an opportunity where it's like, okay, the October streams are done, Halloween streams are done, we're starting new playthroughs. This is what we're going to do. This is what I'm going to do. actively, you know, advertise those as well, I think that's, you know, I think that's going to be a good idea in general. With that, though, I will thank everybody for their time. This has turned out to be a lot longer than 30 minutes. I don't know what to say. 2.5 times longer? 2.5. No, I don't think that's right. Actually, no, that might be right. 2.5 times longer than what I intended. I hope this was informative enough for everybody. Like I said, nobody, please don't anybody attack anyone. This is, for me, the conclusion, the closure of this entire situation. And I really, if I can, I don't really want to go on about this forever. You know, this week has been plenty stressful for myself, mentally and emotionally. Mentally more so, I think. Emotionally, it was like the day it happened, and then it was like, okay, let's see where we can go with this, or really, let's just see to, you know, bring our thoughts across. And honestly, yeah, I just want to, like, at this point, you know, it's a relief, and I'm maybe morbidly enough happy with the way the situation turned out. But, you know, it was still stressful. I've had a lot to deal with. I've had a lot to consider. And, you know, like, I mean, things like these aren't easy, right? Never. It doesn't matter if it's like some small streamer group. It doesn't matter if it's some big, very popular streamer. It's just exhausting. Which is why like I said, I want to conclude with this and frankly just move forward at this point, because, I mean, there's no other direction to move in. So yeah, that is all from me for this announcement. Let's hope there don't have to be that many in the future. Thank everyone who watched this for their time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening, which I fucking hope you did, because otherwise I'm gonna break out of the walls of yours that I'm living in. I think that's the meme that's currently going around. And yeah, to a new character arc, to a new arc of streams, to a new... Oh, I don't want to sneeze, please, now at the end. To a new... Yeah, just to a new set of streams. And to hopefully bountiful and hilarious futures, which, I mean, none of us are really all that funny, so that's not happening, but you know what I mean. We might sneak in a bit of a knee slapper here and there. But with that, I would like to conclude and wish everybody a hopefully relaxing, there we go, I was about to say non-exhausting, but that's not really the same. Yeah, I'd like to wish everybody a relaxing weekend, and I hope to see people on my streams. It's currently 9:30 p.m., so I feel entitled in saying good night, everybody.